and it's crazy when you sit back and think about it. Because I remember Lone was playing me. We were listening to Victory Lap, and I remember telling Lone, like, I love this intro. This is one of the coldest intros I've heard. And he was talking about some drum programming, and we were talking about section leaders and stuff like that. I remember when that album came out, and record is extremely dope. But I'm looking at it 2 years later, after he's passed, iconic figure. I posed a question in terms of him. The phrase was, hell, the Crips even tried to patent that mug, the marathon continues. You know what I'm saying? And everybody was saying that after Nip passed away. But if you think about it now, the store is closed. He really was about trying to, grow that area in the hood and give back to the hood. And we really don't hear a lot about, dude that shot him. And I don't see too many people doing a lot of Nipsey rallies in terms of making sure that this dude gets what he's supposed to get. Well, I say that to say, not necessarily saying that Nip's legacy is not living on, but how do y'all feel about certain things, like in terms from a standpoint of the marathon continuing? Has it continued since he's passed? Like, do you feel like people are still, he's living on through all of the stuff that he was trying to, accomplish from the ownership standpoint, just the dude that he was in the community? Because I see certain things, I'm like, man, it's kind of continuing, but I also could look at it from a standpoint of we just rock Crenshaw stuff once a year and it kind of goes away. So, maybe I'm just playing devil's advocate, but how do y'all feel about that, man? Has the marathon continued since he's passed? Jay, I'll come to you first.
Honestly, no. I mean, other than the fact that we did get a Nipsey and Jay-Z track, but I mean, it just shows you there was so much bandwagon love that came for Nipsey after he passed. I remember, and then, of course, like I can say that we gave him his flowers when he was here. We talked about Victory Lap and how great it was, and when it was time for us to make our year-end list, everyone had Victory Lap. I
was a fan way before Victory Lap.
So we weren't just all of a sudden start talking about Nipsey Hussle after he died. But, I remember, how I felt like the next day when I started hearing people on quote unquote hip hop radio talking about, yeah, rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle. I was like, oh, y'all didn't never have him in your playlist. Don't talk about Nipsey Hussle now because, he's a trending topic. And I feel like that's what happened for a lot of people. Like they weren't really on board with Nipsey and his music and his message until he died. And so that bandwagon love only lasts but for so long. And so, I still hear his music a little bit out in the club, but not really. Not like it was. But also Nipsey didn't, Nipsey was one of those cats that planned for a long life. So it wasn't like with Pac, who always saw death around the corner, who had 6 and 7 albums worth of material just waiting. Like we don't have, that next Nipsey project that's on deck, so things move so fast. There's been so much that's happened since then with the pandemic and sadly so many other rappers that have passed, due to, violent means that, we mourn Nipsey, we miss him. But for us to say the marathon continues, I mean, maybe because I'm not in South Central Los Angeles, and
that's what I was going to bring up, because we're not out there, so it could be a little different out there.
But on a nation, do I still say it on the microphone when I'm hosting a party? Yeah, but like I don't know about everybody else, and it's sad because once again, things move so quickly and we move on so quickly, sadly. It's like, I mean, I remember when I told y'all about how everybody was asking for FBG Duck and King Von. Now that there's been some time that's passed, people aren't asking for those records anymore because once again, a lot of people were bandwagon fans. And now that the moment has passed on, then they've moved on. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people have done that with Nipsey. You know, now that he's kind of out of sight, out of mind, you know, we're not thinking about Lauren London and her children anymore. We've
Yeah.
moved on. And does it carry on for some folks in some places? But as a movement, no. Unfortunately, the marathon has not continued, and it's disappointing.
Oh,
I don't think I am going to agree with you guys because
okay.
I always considered the marathon continue to not be about Nipsey personally, but more so about what he embodied.
Okay.
And more specifically, the things that he was striving for, as far as you know, he bought a corner in the neighborhood. You know, it was completely black owned. You know, all of the ideas that he encompassed. I always took the marathon continues as a grind. You know, he was a hustler, and I always, you know, no matter what, we're going to continue to grind and to build a better life and bring things, help things become more equitable as they grow. I never really looked at the marathon continuing as something that was personally for Nipsey, and I don't know if I would think that he would expect that, but I could be wrong. I don't know. So
That's real. That's a good point.
So when you brought,
I can see where you're coming from there. I can see where you're coming from there.
So when you brought up this originally, when I saw it as a chat item, I didn't really understand what the conversation was, because I feel like the people that are going to embrace it will embrace it, and the people that won't. If we're going to talk about specifically who's keeping his name alive, I think that's maybe a different conversation for me. But I just wanted to articulate kind of the different, what I kind of got from the marathon continues. So
I'm with the same line as that, because you have to realize too that last year was a wash. The COVID breakout and pretty much put everything on pause. You're talking about the marathon store. I didn't know that it closed down. You said it closed?
I didn't know that either.
Now, you know, we just talked about reading and things, so I could have got a bad lead, but I felt,
I'll look it up.
I felt like it had been
closed.
I feel like it had been broken into or something and vandalized, and they had to shut it down. If I'm not, like, again, I could be wrong, but I feel like it was vandalized and they shut it down.
I hadn't read anything about that, but in the same token, to Lone's point, marathon itself is a lifestyle. It's not just that clothing store. Okay. He had his hand in a lot of stuff in the community as far as STEM programs for kids and make sure certain things were getting funded.
Yep.
And I mean, he still has the relationship with Puma. Lauren London was recently promoting something that had just happened with Nip. That too. I think a lot of that, like Jay Moore was saying, that surface level on a claim like you down love wasn't the love that was perceived or was given in the first place. So that's not necessarily needed. Those that were on board beforehand, the marathon definitely continues, because it, like Long said, it's bigger than just Nip. It's more the lifestyle that he's living, the jewels that he was dropping, the foundation that he was building, and there's still relationships that he had with those same people out in California that are still going on right now. His family, I mean, they literally just wrapped up that lawsuit with the Crips.
Yeah.
As far as the marathon continue with his brother Sam, they just recently wrapped that up within like the last month.
Yeah.
So if it's deep enough for them to want to take that to court, because they're fighting to try to use it, I mean, you got to know that something's coming with this. It's not something that just died with Nip. And unfortunately, there was a lot of, again, clout chasers who claimed that they was down with Nip, and they never was in the first place. So still waving the flag.
Just as a little update here, so Lauren London made a post on Instagram that said that the brick and mortar stores, the flagship, is closed, but their online store is open 24/7.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, to Actually, Terry, you and Lone make valid points because, and that's why I opened it by saying, am I playing, devil's advocate? I don't know, because you can look at it from different angles. Lone's angle, actually, both of y'all angles is spot on, because I would fall under that umbrella being a fan of his because of what he stood for and the example that he set. Those are things that I liked about him the most. I do think he, inspired a generation of kids that are going to come up after him, especially like you said, Terry, with the schools and the murals and all the things that he was doing in the community outside the store. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think all those types of things, Lone's point, fall into the marathon continuing. So, those are good points. It's just crazy, man, when you think about it's like I think it was on Boys in the Hood. I think it was Doughboy that said after Ricky got killed, they punched the wrong clock. You know what I'm saying? And I just always think about that line in relation to Nip, because who just punched the wrong clock on him, man. He had so many things that was going on, but I just hope that it is continuing because of the guy that he was and some of the stuff that he laid down for a foundation. And like I said, like me and Jay Moore were talking about, out west, I'm sure they probably still rocking with him, and we might not feel it around here in the Midwest like they do out there. So I could definitely see that. But
he's got little kids. He got a legacy that's on the up and coming. I mean, he had a stepfather to Lil Wayne's son. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, that influence is definitely going to keep on generating and keep on building from them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You might see a marathon continue, shit pop up 10 years from now. It's on them carrying the flag.
If you've enjoyed this segment of the New Old Heads podcast, make sure to join our live show every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/newoldheads. And we invite you to join our hip hop community on Discord. Access it by going to newoldheads.com/community for talks on hip hop, sports, music, news, and everything else.